Hello and welcome to the Election Corner on One Man Think Tank. We are less than 2 weeks out from the 2020 presidential election, and, well, it's getting intense. As you can see, I've already filled in the safe seats on the map, with the ones in blue for the Democratic Party with Joe Biden and the ones in red for Donald Trump. Now, normally I fill in likely seats, which are close to being safe, in this case, flips, but are practically safe, but let's just say it gives things away pretty quickly. Now, before I dive in, I just want to go over a brief little side note when we do my election predictions. I don't do toss-ups. I do tilts. I believe every toss-up race can't be a pure toss-up, and you can call it slightly one way or another. You might be wrong on the coin toss, but, you can still call it. So, what I'll do before I go into doing the tilts is I will say, these are our toss-up states, then go into more detail. And since they're so interesting, let's just burn through the likelies right now. Starting with the Democrats, actually only with the Democrats. They have 4 likely states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. These 4 states all are polling incredibly well for Joe Biden and incredibly well for the Democrats, where there are statewide races happening there, such as the Senate or governor. Democrats are polling well across the board. There is no reason to believe they won't be able to successfully flip these seats, and what shouldn't be shocking is Joe Biden wins the election under this prediction, or he has the best chance of winning. I shouldn't say he's guaranteed to win, he's just got the best shot. However, there are 4 states on the board which reinforce the Democratic blue wall, and except for Pennsylvania, the Democrats could lose one of these 3 states between Arizona, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and they could lose Pennsylvania, but they'd need to win one other seat, which I think they'll do because Maine's 2nd district leans Democratic, and matching that in Nebraska is Nebraska's 2nd district, which leans Republican. In both of these districts, while the member of the other party has been polling decently there and has a better chance than normal of winning their district, in practice, the incumbent party for the area... Now, keep in mind, Donald Trump did win Maine's 2nd district. However, Maine's 2nd district is currently occupied by a Democratic candidate, indicating a shift to the left since 2016, and the district has historically been a Democratic district. So inherently, there is bias in both of these districts towards the incumbent party, and as such, they are both leans because in a strong campaign setting, the other party could flip it, but it is unlikely. Now on to the 2 remaining lean states, and in practice, only one of them is a non-toss-up, and that is North Carolina, which actually leans Democratic, not leans Republican. Not tilt, leans. And I'm putting this outside of the toss-up category just because Joe Biden has been polling decently. He has actually slightly increased his lead over Donald Trump, slightly by about a point, mind you. So on the national scale, which isn't much, but it does show a solidifying, if not slightly advancing lead. The Republicans have also looked likely to lose their Senate seat in North Carolina, and also the Democratic governor looks likely to retain his seat. As such, North Carolina, I'm moving out of toss-up territory. Now we're left with 5 states: Texas, Iowa, Ohio, Georgia, and Florida. These 5 seats, on their own, don't decide the election. As you can see, Joe Biden already has a chance to win, but if Trump loses any of these seats, he is basically guaranteed to lose the election. Almost 100%. So at this point, the Republicans are very much on the defensive. Now, if you watch my channel normally, you know there's something I have been watching intently, and that is the early voting turnout. We were expecting higher than normal turnout. Right now, we sit nationally at about 30% voter turnout, with many states that have been going for a while, such as Wisconsin and Michigan, Virginia, and the like, at about 40% turnout. However, there are 2 states which opened later, and have seen massive amounts of early voting turnout, to the extent I do wonder if this is an indicator of these states will have high turnout, and they are Texas and Florida. We'll get back to them in just a moment for the final call, but I want to make this clear. There is high early voting turnout in Georgia, Florida, and Texas, A lot, in order, Texas is the highest, followed by Florida, then Georgia. So we at the very least know there's high enthusiasm in the South, a little bit higher than the Northeast. So, based on the current polling, how do Iowa and Ohio go? Well, they kind of trade off. Ohio is currently tilt Democratic and Iowa is tilt Republican. In Iowa's case, Joe Biden has just not been there in the polls. According to the national trends, he should be at a slight advantage in Iowa, but the polling hasn't shown him there yet. And in my opinion, Iowa is a state that inherently favors the Republicans because it genuinely has been getting more red. And I think if the Democrats may very well flip the Senate and lose the presidency in Iowa due to the flip the Senate seat and lose the presidential race in Iowa due to the fact that they, for lack of a better term, are kind of running a tad bit of a half-baked campaign in Iowa. They're not really super worried about winning it. It's only got 6 votes and will not be the deciding factor by any real mathematical margin for the presidency, but they can do good in the Senate, so a lot of the money has gone into can we flip the Senate seat. So now onto the 3 interesting... Oh, wait, nope, I need to touch on Ohio briefly. Joe Biden's polling well there. Trump has made a resurgent comeback, so it's not getting any better, but in practice, we're looking at the Democrats' slight advantage for Joe Biden in Ohio, just based on polling, based on turnout, and based on the fact that overall, while Republicans have a solid set of control in the state, there is a strong Democratic base there that can be motivated to turn out, and Republicans that could be flipped. Now, on to the 3 fun ones. So first off, let's start with Georgia, which is tilt Democratic. So, how is Georgia tilt Democratic when it's actually tilt Republican? It's actually tilt Republican, sorry, I misspoke there. So, Georgia being tilt Democratic, Republican, I don't know why I keep saying that, is due to one big factor. Biden's polling just isn't fully there yet. We're having higher levels of turnout in early voting. That's true. That is 100% true. But it's not to the point where I'm going, oh, people are really excited to vote in Georgia. And also, when people are turning out for Georgia's elections, mail-in ballots have, I believe, historically benefited the Democratic Party. So, what does this mean overall? The margin has been getting a lot narrower, but that's to be expected as we approach Election Day. The closer we get to Election Day, the fewer people who are going to be undecided. They'll be more likely to go, well, I'm not showing up to the vote, or I'm either not showing up or I've made my decision, which narrows things down. So I'm also less tempted to go, well, the polls are narrowing, so it favors Joe Biden, when it really may just be things are starting to narrow without the election being in flip territory. Now for the other 2. First up is Florida, which is tilt Democratic, where Joe Biden has actually been polling really well here. No joke. So, in my opinion, there's a 3-point margin of error usually done in Florida polling. That's been pretty consistent. And so, about 3%. Joe Biden's currently polling at about 4% on average, which means he has a slight advantage. So even with the expected margin of error where, turns out more people ended up voting Republican than the polls thought, Florida could still turn Democratic because Joe Biden has a slight advantage, and also Florida has a high elderly voter population, which Joe Biden has been gaining with. He's been gaining really fast with. And it's hard to really measure whether or not how quickly he's gaining if he's maintaining that support, because there aren't many polls done of a wide variety of elderly voters. The only poll I can think of is the AARP poll. So for right now, Florida is tilt Democratic. Lastly, we have Texas, which is tilt Republican. And I say this with a big asterisk next to it. Texas is red. It is a historically red state. It defaults to red. But with the early voting, so to give you an idea, Texas today will enter 1 week of early voting. Early voting started in Texas last Wednesday. It's Wednesday today. We won't know what the Wednesday numbers are till tomorrow because that's how time works. But we do know Texas will have passed 60%. With about, I believe, between 55 and 66% favoring the Democratic Party. With those numbers, by my estimate, if Texas hits about 80%, Democrats will have met and will be surpassing voter turnout in 2016. Now, they still need 1 million more votes on top of that. Which, so, to give you an idea, if Democrats hit their voter turnout from 2016, it will be about 3.8 million votes. They need about another million just to beat Donald Trump's 2016 numbers. However, if early voting puts us in the category where we're looking at Republicans and such having lower early voter turnout, Democrats having high, we've already broken 80%, and more Democratic ballots are still coming in, Texas gets even more contested. So what we need to do, and watch this over the next week, if Texas at all maintains its current trend of about 5% a day, which I think is unlikely, Texas will break 80% by the end of the week. Meaning Sunday, not Friday. And if it maintains this current trend, even if it gets halved, by Election Day, Texas could be at 100% 2016 voter turnout with a bias towards the Democrats. And that's really bad for Republicans, and at that point, Texas is tilt blue. So, watch the early voting turnout. That's going to tell us the excitement per states. Right now, we're getting about average, but this could get a hell of a lot more interesting by Election Day. So, with all that being said, if you like the video, drop a like down below, and also feel free to leave a comment. I'm always curious to hear your guys' opinions. If you want to see more from the channel, click the subscribe button and the notification bell to be alerted when new content comes out. If you want to see more from me outside of YouTube, I do have a Twitter at OneManThinkTan1, the Roman numeral. I will probably be tweeting during the debate tonight, but we'll have to see what my schedule looks like. And, as always, and most importantly, have a wonderful day.